Who is earning money off Iran war? Here's something strange. In the hours before the United States launched military strikes against Iran, before most Americans had any idea that bombs were about to fall, someone was making very specific bets on a prediction market and winning big. That's where we start tonight, not with a press conference, not with a government statement, with a gambling site, and with one senator who looked at the numbers, looked at the timeline, and said out loud what a lot of people were thinking privately. The detail that doesn't add up is this. Online prediction markets, platforms where users can wager real money on geopolitical events, things like whether a country will be attacked, whether a conflict will escalate, whether a military strike will occur within a given window, saw unusual, outsized activity in the period immediately preceding U.S. military action against Iran. The bets were specific, the timing was precise, and the people who made them walked away with significant winnings. Now, prediction markets exist. People bet on geopolitical events, election outcomes, economic data. Sometimes people guess correctly. That's the nature of probability. But when the pattern of winning bets correlates too closely, too neatly with events that were known inside classified government channels before they were known anywhere else, that is when the question changes. It stops being about luck. It starts being about access. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts looked at that pattern and decided it deserved an answer. So she went to the person most likely to have one. Pete Hegseth is the Secretary of Defense of the United States. He oversees the largest military apparatus on the planet. He sits in classified briefings. He knows, before the rest of us, when American forces are about to move, that is the job. And it makes him, by definition, someone who holds information that has enormous financial value to anyone paying attention on a prediction market at the right moment. Warren has been here before. She spent years on the Senate Banking Committee building a reputation for following money through systems that most people find too complicated to bother with. She was doing it before it was fashionable. She tends to ask questions that officials find uncomfortable precisely because the questions are not about politics, they're about arithmetic. Who had the information? When did they have it? What happened in the markets at that same moment? The math either works or it doesn't. What she found, or what her staff found, was that in the lead up to U.S. strikes on Iran, certain accounts on prediction platforms placed winning bets with a specificity that is difficult to explain through ordinary means. The timing wasn't close. It was tight, the kind of tight that makes statisticians uncomfortable. Here is what we know about the paper trail, and here is where we have to be careful and honest about what we do and don't have confirmed. Prediction markets like Polymarket and similar platforms allow users to buy shares and outcomes. Will the U.S. strike Iran in the next 30 days? You buy yes, you buy no. The price fluctuates based on collective probability assessments, and if you're right, you profit. It is structurally a financial instrument that responds to information. Better information means better bets. That is not a controversial statement. It is the entire premise of the model. What Senator Warren raised in her direct questioning of Secretary Hegseth was whether anyone inside the government or anyone connected to people inside the government had used non-public information to place or inform those bets. She didn't make the accusation softly. She asked it the way she asks things, with a document in her hand and a specific number behind her. Her question to Hegseth, delivered in the formal setting of a Senate hearing, was pointed. Do you have any explanation aside from insider trading? Notice what that question does. It doesn't say we have proof of insider trading. It says, here are the facts in front of us. Here is the pattern that those facts describe, and here is the most logical explanation for that pattern. If you have a better one, now would be a good time to offer it. Hegseth, for his part, did not offer one, not a satisfying one. His answers in that hearing were characterized by deflection and by an apparent unfamiliarity with the specific data Warren was presenting. Whether that unfamiliarity was genuine or strategic is something we can't know from a transcript alone. But the non-answer is itself a data point. Warren also pressed him on his own financial records, specifically on whether there were any disclosures that might shed light on whether Hegseth himself or anyone in his immediate circle had financial exposure to these platforms or to the instruments that move when military action is announced. He did not produce documentation in that hearing. The request is on record. Here's the part where everything clicks, and I want to deliver it quietly because the facts are loud enough on their own. We are talking about a potential convergence of three things that should never overlap: classified military planning, financial markets, and personal gain. Those three things are supposed to be separated by law, by ethics, by the entire architecture of what we expect from people who hold public trust. The Insider Trading Act, as it applies to government officials, is specific. Non-public material information cannot be used to profit. That's the law. It applies to stock trades. There is an active and unresolved question about whether it applies or should apply with equal force to prediction markets, a regulatory gray area that has not been fully tested in court. That gray area is not accidental. Prediction markets grew fast, were classified as commodities in some regulatory frameworks and as something else in others. And the rules governing what constitutes insider trading in that space are, at this moment, genuinely unsettled, which means that even if someone did exactly what Warren's question implies, used foreknowledge of military action to profit on a betting platform, the legal exposure is murkier than it would be for a stock trade. Whether that murkiness is a design feature or a coincidence depends on how cynical you are. What is not murky is the timeline. What is not murky is the pattern. What is not murky is that the question was asked in public of the man responsible for the most sensitive military planning in the world, and the answer that came back was not a denial backed by documentation. It was a performance of ignorance. Here's the part that should concern all of us, and I mean that in the most grounded, non-dramatic sense possible. We are at a moment when the United States is engaged in active military conflict in a region with enormous geopolitical consequence. Every decision made in those classified rooms has financial aftershocks in energy markets, in defense contracting, in insurance pricing, in the exotic corners of financial speculation that most people never see. And we are being asked to accept on faith that none of the people with access to those decisions are using that access to enrich themselves or the people around them. That faith has to be earned. It is earned through transparency, through financial disclosure, through independent oversight. When a sitting senator asks the Secretary of Defense for documentation and doesn't receive it, the faith has not been earned. The question remains open. And in a democracy, open questions about who profits from war are not small questions. They are foundational ones. The men and women serving in that conflict don't get to bet on the outcome. The families waiting at home don't get to hedge their anxiety on a prediction platform. The only people positioned to do that are the ones who know what's coming. And right now, someone knew something. Two threads remain open, and I think they're worth sitting with. The first is regulatory. There is no settled law at this moment governing whether using classified government information to profit on a prediction market constitutes a crime. That gap exists. Congress has not closed it. Whether it closes it now, whether this moment creates the political will to do so, is genuinely unknown. And it matters enormously for how much protection the public has going forward. The second is simpler and harder. Senator Warren asked for financial records. She asked for an explanation. She got neither fully in that hearing. Whether she gets them through subpoena, through oversight mechanisms, through the slow grind of congressional inquiry will tell us a great deal about whether accountability in this moment is possible or merely theoretical. Both of those threads are still running. Where they end, we don't yet know. Someone made money while America went to war. The question is, who taught them when to buy?